So if you wanted to sell one house a year and you were guaranteed to get 100% of the people in your database, you'd have to have 13 people in your database if you want to sell one house a year. If you wanted to sell 10 houses a year, you'd have, and you wanted to, and you were guaranteed to get everybody in your database, you'd have to have 130 people in your database
It's all 13.
to get 10 houses.
Wait, say that again?
The average home ownership is 13 years.
Yeah,
You want to sell 10 houses a year, you'd have to have 130 people in your database. On
yes,
average.
yes,
You want to sell 20 houses in a year, you've got to have 260
Yes.
people in your database.
correct.
Assuming, the assumption is that you get 100% of those people.
Right.
So why is that important?
Build up your database.
Well, you do have to build up your database. It's absolutely right. But how big does your database have to be? Not as big as you think.
As,
Is
yeah,
kind of the
as
point.
big as what you want to
Mhm.
have.
But Gary Keller said, and it's right here in this book, in case you haven't been in the.
In this book.
If you haven't been in this book, this is a good book, really
That's
good
a
book.
millionaire. Why is yours tabbed?
Why is my, this is
Yeah.
Jessica's tab, and I want to get it because you can order it this way,
Spiral.
spiral bound with
Sweet.
tabs. Until you have enough leads to meet or exceed your goals, there is no other issue.
Right.
Nothing else is important until you
But
have
I need
enough.
business cards.
What about my signs?
I need a logo.
Can I have a class on the golden letter? I mean, those are all things, and they're not necessarily bad things, but unless you have consistent, regular lead generation,
Right, we're not mocking. We're just saying it's,
it's easy to get lost in the sauce.
right.
Because the reality is, now, and some of those things are important to generating leads, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, like a business card or, I mean, signs, they all are relevant to that.
Right.
But on the other side, there's am I spending the time to get the leads? Or am I hoping that they'll rain down from the sky if I do something extra else? And instead of doing the work, I'm just gonna go do the extra stuff and hope that that generates them for me, right? And then you also have to get into the place where you talk about maybe the differentiation between leads. What are leads? How are some leads better than others? And when I say better, I should really just say different. How do leads differ? How do I track them? How do I track the different leads I get? So like if you run a Facebook ad, we talked about this in the last class, and I don't know that we'll get to it here tonight, but we will now since you're here and we're talking about it.
Here we go.
If you get a Facebook lead, the average close time on a Facebook lead is 18 months. 18 months.
You mean by running?
Hello, everybody.
Like if you get, oh, look, there's Eli. Yeah, so if you get a Facebook lead,
Mhm.
a lead from Facebook, they click on your thing or
So,
whatever.
yeah, right.
It's the average time that it goes from you got it till it closes is 18 months.
That's crazy. Why does it take so long?
Because I want you to think about what you do when you're looking at Facebook, watching television, sitting next to somebody, maybe on the couch, you're scrolling through. Oh, look at that funny picture of Joey's kids. His kids is silly. Oh, look at that house. Click, and you click on the house. You have no interest in buying a house. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But the house looks cool, so you click on it. 18 months on average is how long it's going to take. So Eli, if it takes 18 months on average to turn a Facebook lead from dropping into your command database to signing a contract with you, right? Takes 18 months for that to happen. What happens if somebody on Facebook says, hey, yeah, Eli, I'd love for you to sell a house? What does that mean if that happens in 2 weeks?
Score.
It means you have no volume is what it means.
Oh,
Jess.
oh
Or
my
he's
God.
on mute, one of the two.
Hang on. There we go.
It means, well, first off, obviously it means it's a gift from heaven, right, Eli? I mean, you got to really like that.
Exactly. Score.
Exactly. The other thing it means though is there's probably somebody in your database though is going to take 36 months. Make that average come close again, right? And so one of the things that you have to keep in mind is that some leads are just different than others. And those Facebook leads aren't less valuable. They're less immediately valuable, right? So you're not going to go give that Facebook lead a bag of chocolate on his doorstep come Valentine's Day, because that's just not a smart way to run a business. But if on the other side, you're not emailing him once a month or twice a month just to stay top of mind, that's a mistake. And that's what that automated process, the things in command, those little things are all about, right? And that stuff like that's a far out lead. So you just want to make sure that you don't forget about them, because I was talking to Sarah Anderson the other day, and she was saying that they got a bunch of leads from Facebook and they didn't really touch them, didn't do anything to them. And then they reviewed them with her team. They went through and they reviewed them a few months later, and they found something like 15 to 20% of those people bought houses.
Oh my God.
Now, they hadn't been working them. They got the leads and they kind of sat there and didn't think about them, but they weren't really working them. And then as they go through and call these people within the last few months, many of them have bought homes, right? Lead generation and working your leads, that is the job. And until you've got a scalable process in place to work your leads, and that's why command is so beneficial, right? That's what smart plans are for. They're working your leads, and they're working the Facebook style leads. Your job is to work those middle funnel and those bottom of the funnel leads, right? So I say a bottom of the funnel. Hey, Andrew, I'm thinking about buying a house. Woo-wee, I'm in. That's a bottom of the funnel lead, right? Just right there, we're ready to go. We're taking off, right? That's a lead. Now, that person may or may not end up buying a house from you, and that's why they're still a lead, right? Until that person closes, they're only ever a lead.
Yeah.
But they're at the bottom of the funnel. They've already worked themselves out. And then you have the middle funnel. Maybe if you're running Google ads, where if a person like Google's realtor, they're serious about looking for houses, maybe not yet, but they're in the warm-up stages, man. They're getting things ready. They're thinking about this. That's the middle of the funnel. And you want to work them differently than you work the Facebook leads, right?
Yeah.
Because those people, and if you think about the way the opportunities tab is set up in command, it's got those little different gradations of lead, right? There's cultivate and ignore and then hot, right? And I mean,
Yeah.
those people are going to fit in different places, and how you work those leads are going to be very different. And you need to have that thought process in mind for that reason. And of course, until you have leads, none of it is relevant. You have no other problem until you have enough leads to meet or exceed your goals. And so if it takes 13, the average person owns their home for 13 years, and you want to sell 20 houses, and you're going to get 100% of your leads, you need 260 people in your database, period. Of course, you're not going to get 100% of those people in your database. You're not, right? And those numbers aren't going to work out 100% of the time.
Right.
So you got to start building in that cushion. But people often think that real estate is unpredictable. It's not unpredictable. You just don't know the numbers and aren't putting in that level of execution to make the numbers work, right? I mean, we all, if you're a baseball fan, you know that the game has changed completely in the last 10 or 15 years because they realized numbers make a difference and certain things are better than other things. And we used to think, as long as it used to be, if it's batting averages, home runs, all really matter. Well, no, there's a lot more to baseball than that, son. And it turns out when you study those numbers, there's a lot more things. And if you really get down and breaking it down, that's what it's about. How do I get involved in this? And how do I monitor those things and create programs that are going to help me work the leads that I have? And then how do I get more leads? Because you can throw away good leads, or you can throw away bad leads, or you can just not throw away any leads and do your job.
Right.
What kind
Right.
of programs are you kind of
So like I said, when you're talking about those Facebook leads, right? What am I doing with them? And those are probably your more, your newsletter, your neighborhood nurture, those middle funnel leads. You got to be on the phone with those people on a regular basis. You've got to be texting those people on a regular basis. Because they need to know, and those are more personal contacts, right? That you can invest that time in. When I say personal contacts, I mean the actual method of you contacting them is far more personal. So you've got to be engaged at that level so that you can get in touch, in tune with them and write forward, right? We know, hey, as a family, those sorts of things. What are you doing? What are you doing for recreation, Thomas? What are you doing on your board? And then, the dreams thing. How do you even bring up dreams, right?
Right.
How do you bring that up in a conversation? Do you ever say to one of your friends, hey, Eli, what are dreams, man? Tell me about your dreams, Eli. Right? That sounds ridiculous, right? But what if you just change it to a simple, more thing? What's next for you? All right, cool, man. Glad that you're having fun out there on the beach last Sunday. What's next? What do you got coming up? What are you seeing down the road? What are vacations? Where are you going? What are you doing? Right? That's dreams. You have to be specific. It's not dreams. What are dreams, brother? That's a weird thing. That doesn't work. You want to ask what's next? What is the next step for you? Are you, hey, what's happening at work? What's the next step for you at work? Is there a promotion? Or are you just going to be the best gas pumper that ever existed? And now that you've pumped the perfect tank of gas, what's next there at the essay? I mean, are you going to get promoted to assistant manager? Cool. What does that look like? I mean, that's dreams, right? You're talking dreams at that point.
So I have a question. Say you get a lead, but it's someone you don't know. Like, I don't know, my mom's like coworker or something. So I get his number and I call him, like, how do you use a forward script with someone you don't really know?
Cool. That's a great question. Jess, who are you?
Who am I? What do you mean? Who am I going to be?
Mhm.
In the role play?
Mhm.
I will be the lead.
All right. And you're from my mom's work.
Right.
From my mom's work, folks, from my mom's work. Hey, Jessica, this is Jason. I work with Keller Williams Preferred Realty. My mom, my mom, right? Mrs. Sandra Rhodes, the crazy one.
Oh, yeah, Sandy.
Yeah, she gave me your name, so I feel bad for you already that
Oh,
you know her.
yes.
I'm kidding. My mom's a wonderful person. I'm sure you
Yes.
know that.
Yes.
Doesn't she give the best gifts?
Yeah, she does. I love her cookies.
Cool. Well, my mom must have gotten better over the years. Must have gotten better because we didn't call them cookies. We called them charcoal briquettes. And they were one and the same. So anyway, she gave me your number and thought there might be somebody I might reach out to and just chat a little bit. But I got to be honest with you. I want to tell you a little bit about what I do and what my business is like.
Blake made it.
You're interrupting a role play.
Sorry.
We're in the middle of a role play.
And I want to tell you a little bit about what my business is like. And what I mean by that is what's important to me is helping people make the most important financial decision of their life and making sure that I am able to understand their needs and any questions and things like that they have. But I don't really, that's what I physically do. But what my business is about is helping people succeed at the things they want to succeed at. And with that in mind, do you mind if I just ask you a couple of questions?
Oh, sure.
All right. This is going to sound really crazy, but tell me about your family.
What do you want to know?
Well, like, do you live by yourself? Yeah.
Yeah.
You have kids or? My mom didn't really mention a lot. She just mentioned you guys have a good time at work and
Sure.
enjoy eating Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A. Yep, I love Chick-fil-A. I love me some bonus points at Chick-fil-A. So I live alone. Yep, that's me.
All right. How long is that? How long have you lived where you live now?
I've lived here for 3 years.
And do you have family close by or have you
Yep.
moved or have you always lived here in Minnesota?
Nope, I've always lived here and I've got family in the,
Oh,
in the Twin
awesome.
Cities. Yeah.
Fantastic. Where'd you go to school at then?
I went to school in Burnsville.
in Burnville, the Burnsville Blaze,
The
4th of
Burns-
July, burning 4th of July, all that
That's
kind of fun
right.
stuff, right?
I graduated when it burned down. Yep.
Oh, that happened? That's a thing? I'm not from Minnesota. The
It's-
school
yep.
burned down or the town burned down?
1994, the school. We were on fire. And our mascot was changed to the Blaze earlier in the year. So
Oh, no, that's
super
not.
cool,
that's
super cool, huh?
Kind of funny, but not.
But
maybe, I don't
not.
know, Ironical. What's
Yeah.
ironic is that. Oh, well, that's cool. Now, I know you work in the same building as my mom, but what exactly do you do there?
Oh, yeah. I work with a doctor's office.
Oh, a doctor's office. Sure, that's neat. And what do you do at the doctor's office?
Oh, I help like when people come in, like intake and stuff.
Oh, intake. How
Yeah.
did you get into that? Because that's not, I mean, that obviously medicine's a growing field and I got these kids who just won't get out of my house. I'm always looking for job ideas for them. How do you get into a field like that?
Well, I really like to help people. And so, I thought that would probably be a good thing to do.
And
is-
and you also don't have to
medically
have
help
blood
them.
all over you.
Yeah, I pass out when there's blood. So I
Perfect reason
for
to stay
sure
away from that.
cannot do that.
Okay, well, that makes a lot of sense. Did you have to go to, is there like specific types of classes or things that you have to take for that? Or is there
Yeah.
like ongoing education? I mean, what?
Yep. I had to get certified to do that. And then I also have to take classes like ongoing to
Ah.
keep the certification.
I am not a great guy at school. I can't stand it. I sit in school, I sit in the class, I get bored. How about you? Are you a big classroom person? Or are you excellent at that? You know what? I guess you'd probably, if you're in medicine, you're probably excellent at that, aren't you?
I'm excellent.
Cool. There's nothing wrong with being excellent at it. And it's certain,
Practicing or what is this?
yes,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Jesus, we're talking cookies, grandma's cookies, mom's cookies.
you know it, sister. That's what we do. So you finish with class, it's Saturday afternoon. What does that look like for you? What are you doing on Saturday? How you blowing off the steam?
On a Saturday, I like to do crafts.
Oh, crafts.
Yeah.
Neat. Like knitting
Oh,
or are
no.
you a yarn gal?
Not so much a yarn gal. Used to do like yarn, but not so much anymore. And I really like plants.
Oh, plants.
I like to garden.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Do you have a large garden in your house at home now?
In my
or
house.
In your
No.
house? Outside your house? Well, I mean, there are a lot of people
Good
doing hydroponics, my friend.
House, right? Yeah. I went to Epcot and I saw all that hydroponic stuff and I couldn't stop taking pictures of it. So yes, my goal is to have like a greenhouse outside.
Oh, okay. Well, that must be a lot. How big a greenhouse would that be? I mean, are we talking like the Arboretum style kind of thing?
That would
or-
be amazing, but I don't know that the city would let me
The
do
city
that.
Ordinance is not
Yeah.
not
I
partial
don't
to
think
that
that's in
kind
the,
of thing.
in the garden.
Right? But keep in mind, and this is outside the script, right? We now know that we already have something very specific for a house. It's going to be important to this person, right? We
Mhm.
know that would be an important thing. If they ever were looking for a house, we know we have something that we have to go with, right? And then, so what's next for you? I mean, what's coming down the road for you in the next 5 years? Do you see yourself still at the same doctor's office or is there other steps in the business that you're thinking of? Are you going back to school for anything to expand that or?
Well, I don't think I want to be where I'm at now. I mean, that'd be kind of that like in 5 years. Yeah, I would get bored with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what are you thinking about? What are some things that might interest you? I mean, is there a way that you can turn that love of plants into something else you could do?
Well,
The love of the leaf?
yeah, I mean,
You should grow marijuana.
I was just gonna say medicinal marijuana. I mean, I feel like that kind of get into both realms that I'm in.
Mm-hmm. It would if that's a thing you do. I actually, as it turns out, I have a good friend who is a well-known lecturer in the medicinal marijuana business.
Really?
And would it be helpful to you if I get you her name?
Yeah.
She's currently in Argentina. She goes literally travels the world talking about medicinal marijuana. But
I have
I'm
a couple
sure she'd
drug
love to talk to
dealers.
people.
I got dealers.
Yeah, I hooked
I
up
got
with a
dealers if
dealer.
you need to sell
Yeah.
to. or
Don't
whatever.
necessarily want to pursue that.
Just kidding.
At any rate, I think the important thing is the transition piece right in there. And there's nothing wrong with being honest. not trying to trick people, you know what I mean? If my mom gave you your number, I mean, you answered. I got to kind of assume that you're okay with going on with some
Right.
kind of
Yeah.
conversation.
Right.
I know.
And then just being upfront about it, I think is the real thing. Now, is there a perfect answer or a perfect segue? I don't know. And it'll probably come to me at 3:00 in the morning. That's usually when it does. And then I'll have heartburn and then,
You need a notepad next to your bed then. or
and
something.
well, no, it'll stick. It'll stay there, but I'll get heartburn at the same time. It's just kind of magic from that pepperoni pizza I'll eat before I go to bed. But I think that for me, I've always believed in being honest. And I think, the other part is just giving them some kind of why. Why at all is this important? You know what I mean? This is what I do, and it's important to me to tie these things together. And I really wouldn't do my business without knowing you better than just a name. I wouldn't
Mhm.
want to do business with you. I mean, I'm sure you're a nice person and all, but to me, I'd like to know a little bit more about you before we ever engaged in a business thing, right? And that's just part of who I am.
Yeah.
And, it's cool like that, I think.
Yeah.
And I think that's just like my concern is, will they wanna just like go on with the conversation? Or
No,
just
they
move
won't.
on?
They'll steal the conversation a perfectly different way and you'll go that way.
Mhm.
And that's the thing. See, and this is one of the things, and what we wanted to talk about, Jess and I really want to talk about today is what we got from family reunion. Fair amount of money, expensive trip, a use of company time and resources. If you're me, like I'm paid by a human being. I mean, there's a human being who pays me to do a job. And instead of me doing the job she's paying for, she paid me essentially additional money to go do not the job she's paying me for.
I love the linguistics of this.
Well, that's the thing about it. I
it's
mean,
true.
you got to wrap your mind around it sometimes, right? I mean, no matter what business or job you're in, if you're doing something like that, you got to take a minute and really wrap your mind around what really happened here.
Right.
So what do I get out of this whole thing? And one of the first things I thought was really impressive that Gary Keller said in one of his speeches was, you sell houses, but you're in the relationship business. Your business is relationships, not real estate. Okay. And real estate is the culmination of the relationship from a dollar value, or what do I get out of this? But what you're really in is in the relationship building business, and you've got to build relationships. And if you think about it that way, it changes the game. And if we think like we talked about with your different levels of context, I don't know you and you aren't my friend and you don't know I'm in the real estate business. My first job is to get you to know who I am and that I'm in the real estate business. And then my next job is to get you to do business with me. And then my next job is to get you to refer someone, right?
Yep.
But my first step, don't know you, don't know I'm in the business, is to get you to know who I am and that I'm in the business. That's the first step. It's a relationship building business. And as I was talking to Andrea before you guys got here, I wrote it down. I wrote down the page number that I would find this in. And then I borrowed Jess's MREA book. You've probably seen it. You might have read it. But literally on page 41, he referenced this. Page 41. Until you have enough leads to meet or exceed your goals, there is no other issue. That's it. That's the most important thing that you do. Until you have enough leads, there's no other issue. And every lead, then you have to work, right? But you've got to generate the leads first. That's the job. And then nurturing them to the point that you make money. Eli, what I was saying is until you have enough leads, there is no other issue. That's it. It's right here at the top of the page. Until you have enough leads, there is no other issue. You can't see that, but trust me, it's right here. He's pretty stalled out. Maybe his house is falling down. I hope not. Poor guy's stalled
Oh, I
out.
was like, what?
Oh, they're
Yeah.
frozen.
Yeah, he's frozen. He's stalled out. So I'm telling
Stalled out.
you, he's frozen. You're right. Where's Elsa to sing the song? Let it go, Eli. Let it go. Let it go.
I laugh about.
Poor guy's probably having an heart attack. We don't even know.
Oh my God.
It's terrible. Just put one hand up if you're still alive, Eli. Oh no, he's dead. He's not putting the hand up. He's not okay. What do we do? What do we do? I don't know. But we had, the crazy thing is, and he's of course going to reload. When you go to family reunion, there's a million things you can take away from it, and all of your takeaways are going to be personal. I mean, there's some big ones that all of us kind of got touched by, but most of your takeaways are going to be personal because you went there with your bag of lenses to look at the things in front of you. And I think, and I will take turns on this one, and I'll let her go because I've been talking a while. But I think the first thing that we'll see if he's like dead.
Eloy.
There he is. Look, he's moving.
Could you hear
Something
us?
Funny about Zoom. No, he's dead again.
Oh my
Believe it or
God.
not, microwave. No, you guys were glitching out.
No,
Okay.
you were glitching out.
It's you, man.
You're the glitch.
He's glitchy.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Here it goes again.
Okay, what'd you say? We missed it.
Should I mute myself? Is it like weird?
No,
No,
Should I
you're
mute
fine.
myself?
Your vision is goofy.
You're just a glitch.
Every now and then it's just frozen. You're frozen like right now. Unless you're just, oh, well, wait. Oh, there. You're good. As long as you can hear us. Otherwise, you can always call my phone and we can just do a audio.
speaker.
Okay.
Relocate. Reloading.
But one of the thing that I think we'll open up with is
Yeah,
one that
I like that idea.
Okay.
Your voice is
Yeah, we'll wait for him.
glitching.
Please. 23 emails.
Your call has been forwarded.
Okay, there we go. I tried calling you. Okay.
Okay,
now you
thank
can-
you.
Yeah, you can hear us now, right?
Yep.
Perfect. Okay, what were you saying, Jason?
So I think the first set of takeaways we'll talk about, and like I said, Jessica, I'll let her talk first, but I think the thing that impacted both of us most specifically, and almost anybody I talked to who is there, was Sean Aker, who he has a TED Talk, and you guys will look him up later, about happiness. And I'll let her talk about some points there, happiness and gratitude, and the importance of that in the business. And I think it goes right to the soul of why it's such an impactful conference and why it's important to be able to go.
Yeah, so he has been, I think he jokingly said until he was about, at age 7, he wanted to be a researcher on happiness, right? And his parents were like, oh, great, right? Like, what does that even mean? But so he has, like Jason said, he's got a TED Talk, and then he's written a couple of books as well. And basically, he started out by having us do an activity and he built it up a lot, like leading up to it, right? And basically what we were doing is he's like, find a partner, and then it would be like, well, just make sure you're okay if this person like slaps you in the face, right? And we're all like, what? Right. So we went back and forth, and then he said, okay, now the person 1, you're going to have to really have no emotion, no matter what person 2 does to you. Okay. And we're all like, what is he doing? Right. So we go back and forth again for like a good 5 minutes. And then he says, okay, what I want you to do is I want you to look at the person, and person 1, you have no emotion. Person 2, I want you to smile and look caringly into their eyes. Right. And so I was watching you too. Jason was in the row in front of me. And I was trying to make Lisa Brainer smile. And he was trying to be serious, right? And Melissa's looking at him. And so it's like, you can't do it, right? Like you just like, I was like, oh, you know? And then when I saw you crack, I felt good because I was like, he's probably going to be able to do this, right?
I feel awkward and I laugh.
Right. And so, and that's what happened. The whole room, I mean, a ballroom was gigantic. Like the whole, everybody, 10,000 people started laughing and talking and whatever. And then he had us reverse it.
Mhm.
Right. And then you try to do the reverse
It was
and
almost impossible if you're on the reverse side.
Yeah,
I
I've
felt
done
terrible for Melissa. She had no chance.
right.
Because I mean, you're still laughing from the last time.
Right.
You get, I mean, the buildup was good because, but the point of, and he talked about it in a couple different other ways. He said, you know, if you go to an airport terminal and they've studied the same thing, the same
Mm.
behavior
Yeah.
in an airport terminal where people are just hanging out, not paying attention, and they send one person, person is paid, they're part of the research group. They go into the area and start looking at their watch, looking a little annoyed and start tapping their foot. And before you know it, this incredibly peaceful room is now mirroring this behavior unintentionally, because that's how your brain works. We're such social creatures that we want to mirror the behavior of those around us. It's why having a positive attitude is so important.
Mhm.
And it's why it is so important that you identify the negativity that sometimes happens around you and understand the impact that that can have on you, because you're going to want to subconsciously mirror that.
Mhm.
Now, that doesn't mean get rid of all the negative people in your life. What it means is be conscious and be aware of them and understand that maybe your job in the entire world is to bring that person just a little bit out of it. And if everybody approached it that way, that would be great, because what breaks down that sort of thing is social connection. We know that to be true, that the path to depression and addiction starts in places where people feel alone and disconnected. And if you can work through that and come from it from the other places, places of positivity and inclusion, you can help people before they get too far down a path that they don't want to be on.
Yeah, one of the notes I had for that was that nervous smiles and yawns are good to do because it makes people like at ease, right? And nervous and tapping can be negative. And so he said for mirroring neurons, other people's brains like optimism and happiness can spread better, right? And faster. And then ironically, he said, I'm pretty sure this was Walt Disney World is what he was referring to since we were in Florida, but he said the 10 and 5 feet rule. So Ritz-Carlton. So for 10 feet, you smile, like whenever whenever you're in 10 feet of somebody. And then when you're within 5 feet, you say hello. And so he goes, so I like to do this 5 and 10 foot dance. And so then I'm like, I'm in it, and then I'm out of it. I'm in it, then I'm out of it. And then I see what they do. They're like, right? He was kidding. But, that's one of the things. And I noticed that at Disney World, like, they're always, like, when you come onto a ride or when you leave a ride, they're waving, right? You get closer, they say something to you. Like, there's always contact with people. And, I told my daughter, I was like, I walked into Epcot and I was so excited. I was like, oh my God, this is so exciting. I'm like, right? And it was park hopper time. So people were leaving to go to their other park and they're like, like they look like, why am I freaking here? And I was like, is this what I'm going to look like when I walk out? I don't want to look like that. Right. And then when we walked out yesterday, I was like, oh, we're those people because we're so exhausted. We walked 8 miles today. Right. And it's still like, when you go back and you think about that vacation, you're not thinking about how you walked 8 miles and you were so hot and it was horrible. You're remembering all those fun things, right? And then you're like, eventually, maybe at some point in my life, I would like to go back, right? Because it's certainly not tomorrow. But yeah, those kind of things really make an impact. And he talked about a couple of different studies, like the one with the doctors, where they wanted to go into a doctor's office, but because of like insurance and regulations, they can't, but they stood in hallways. And when the doctor came out, they had 1 second to make eye contact and smile. And they said that ended up changing the way that patients felt about the doctors, because they felt like they were more listened to and they were more cared for. And the doctors were more quickly to be finding what was wrong, like prescribing it, the, whatever, what am I trying to
Better
say?
about the diagnosis.
Right, the
The
diagnosis and,
doctors paused and smiled.
no,
No.
they just had like people planted in the hospitals, right? Or in the
Smiling
doctor's
at the
office.
patients and the doctors.
Yep. And because they said that doctors were, was it go in, do this, leave, go out, do this. And they were like, just that one smile for 1 second ended up making a positive impact. And that the patients were like, yeah, oh yeah, like this, like after 6 months, so like, yeah, this place is wonderful. It's so great, right? And it's all because of a 1 second smile, right? That they could quantify and track and come back with it. So.
I think one of the things we also talked about is the pillars of happiness and success.
Mhm.
And I think very early on in our lives, we are taught, conditioned to understand that, I'll be happy when I graduate high school. Then I'll be happy when I graduate college. And then I'll be happy when I get my first job. And then I'll be happy when I get a place to live. And then I'll be happy when I get married. And then I'll be happy when I have kids. And then I'll be happy when I have a house, or on down the line.
I'll be happy when I get divorced.
Well, there's the thing, but that we put this, but the problem is that internally as humans, we constantly move the goalposts for success. Otherwise, you don't learn to walk.
Mhm.
I mean, you literally take
Right.
your first step, success, done,
Not walking.
not walking.
Did a
I've been
step.
successful. You don't know.
Yeah.
Because it's not enough to take a step. Now I've got to walk. And it's not enough to walk. I've got to run. And it's not enough to run. I got to ride a bike. It's not enough to ride a bike. I got to drive a car. And then, on and on, that you keep moving the goalpost for success. So if you tie your happiness to success, these successes, you're never going to reach it because you keep moving it,
Mhm.
right?
There's a country song about that by Lauren Elena. Exactly like that.
See, she
Mhm.
listened to that one. I don't know that one. But well, Kelly listens to a lot of country music, so I don't know, maybe I missed it. But instead, you have to be and create happiness where you are. And success comes to happy people, not happiness comes to successful people. You think about what Steve Jobs, in the final moments of his life, basically said, I created this incredible business empire, but I never took the time to be happy and enjoy it. And I mean, that's a frightening thing to think of. And so many of those people are in that place. And now you got Jeff Bezos going to build a $2 quadrillion, I don't even know how many, yacht, because he thinks that's going to make him happy.
Yeah.
That's not going to make him happy. And maybe he has a better understanding of his why than I do. I hope he does. But I can't imagine he's going to find it necessarily on that yacht. Because if you
Right.
really think, and we talked about this earlier, if you took a survey of the 7 billion people in the world and said, what are the 8 things, just the 8 easiest things to change that would make you happy? Probably be like a home, a regular set of meals, a partner who cares about me. I guarantee you have most of those things already.
Mhm.
If not, like in my case, I have probably all of the 8 most important things
Mhm.
already. So why would I not be happy?
I don't
Right?
know.
mean,
America needs to wake up.
It's not America. It's human nature.
Well, it's America. We got everything. And we're not
We
happy.
do have a
You know,
lot
what
of
the heck
things.
is
We get a lot of
happening?
benefits. But we start comparing. We start comparing to other
Yeah.
people. We start comparing in things. And we talked about this trip. And I haven't mentioned the fact that I spent 11 hours in the airport and on the plane getting there. 11 hours. It was
Yeah.
insane. I got to the airport at 2 p.m. and arrived in Orlando at 1 a.m.
Yeah.
Only in airports and planes. I spent 3 hours getting a lunch. Yes, one lunch.
Yeah.
That's not what you're going to see on Instagram. That's
Yeah.
not what you're going to see on my
Mhm.
Facebook feed. Those aren't
I
the
saw it on
things.
your Facebook.
Well, not that it was
That a
11
joke. That
hours,
was a joke, though.
but I did
Yeah.
post the thing
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
that thing, but even that, I made light of it. Dude,
Yeah.
I was exhausted.
Yeah.
I was a little angry, but not super angry because I know it was nobody can control this
Mhm.
except for Sun Country. And I'm never going to actually talk to Sun Country. That's not a thing. But you find out that happiness, you have to be responsible for your happiness. You have to be responsible for it where it's at. And your story about Disneyland, I'll let you tell that in a second, reminded me of a story that my favorite sporting event that I've ever been to was a WWE wrestling match at Target Center.
How long
And
ago? I don't-
They're stupid. It's the dumbest thing on the planet. It is 100% fake. There is nothing real about this event. And a friend of mine invited me, and I'm like, oh God, are you kidding me, man? And I'm like, all right, I'll
Did you see The
go.
Rock?
No, it was before The Rock. It was
Oh.
Goldberg back then. Feared the Spear. Mayor Sharon Sales
Belton.
Belton was the mayor of Minneapolis at the time. So that should maybe
That's a long
put it
time.
in context, right? But I decided to go to this thing and I'm kind of pissing and moaning about it. And Kelly goes, well, why don't you just go and have a good time? And I'm like, because it's wrestling,
That's an option?
because it's wrestling. And I got there and I said, you know what? Maybe she's right. So I'm going to boo when the bad guy comes out. I'm going to cheer when the good guy comes out. And I'm just going to play along with it.
Yeah.
I'm just going to play along. And I'm telling you, it is absolutely the most ridiculously fun event, sporting event that I've ever been to because I just bought in. I
Yeah.
stopped fighting it and said, I'm going to have fun with this. And I'll let Jessica tell her story about her and her daughter in parades and whatnot. But I mean, it's the same thing where you just, there's a moment where you just have to recognize, I have to be happy here. And if there was one thing I took from Sean, it was, you know, I'm in control of this happiness boat. And sometimes it's going to get the better of me, but for the most part, I'm in control of this. It's my choice.
Mhm. Yeah, so so I was at family reunion for the days, right? And then my daughter and her friend Abe, and then my mom and my stepdad had a condo. And so they went to all the parks, right? And they did the park hopping and all this stuff. And so by the time I came onto the scene, my daughter was a little burnt out from being with grandma, right? And she's like, I mean, we're sitting at lunch and she looks at me. She has never said this in her life. She's like, Mom, I've missed you. I'm like, oh God, it must have been bad, right? Like, oh yeah. And so I got to Epcot and I walk in and that's when I was like, oh my gosh, I was so excited, right? And I just start to watch what other kids are doing, right? And what other families are doing. And then then yesterday we went to Magic Kingdom, which is like, it's magical, right? So I get there and, you know, it's so crazy because like they have you go to this lot and then you either have to take a monorail or a boat to get there. And I'm like, we're not just there. I'm like, I mean, I've been here, but I forgot that part, right?
Yesterday, so you just got
Yeah.
back today?
Like 1 a.m.
Oh my
I got back. Yeah. And I have my mini ears in the office. I'll show you later. And then, so then we get there and I'm like watching all these people. And of course we're in the line that's not moving. And then, right? And it's like, oh. So we get in there and, my daughter's asking all these questions. Like, do you want to figure this out? Do you want to go to this? Right. And I was like, I don't care what we do. Like, I'm totally like, I don't care. She's like, oh, okay. And I'm like, well, we don't need to wait in line for guest services to answer a question for like literally half an hour. I'm like, let's just walk around. So we start walking and all of a sudden they're like, get on, get on the sidewalks. And I'm like, what's happening? What's going on? And it was Tinkerbell riding on this giant like thing of like coins and a treasure chest and like a pot of gold, like all the things. And I was like, it's Tinkerbell. I know her. And Olivia's like, oh my God. And I'm like, wait. And so I get my phone out and I'm like taking pictures. And so she's recording. She's recording me freaking out. Right. And I'm like, ah. And then we get across the street and we're, walking up and all of a sudden I was like, wait, there's something going on there. They're like, yeah, it's the princesses. Like, we're not doing this right now. And I was like, we're doing this. This is happening. And so I, if Eli wasn't on my phone, I would show you guys right now. Maybe next week I'll show you. But so they come out and it's okay. They come out and they're in this like giant, like float, right? And it's like all the new princesses, right? And there's this music and it like makes you want to dance, right? And they're dancing and then all these characters. And so I'm dancing and recording and taking pictures and like all the animals and all the things. And Olivia and Abe are like, oh my God, she's seriously doing this right now. I was like, this is fun. Like, this is happy. This is the happiest place on earth. And I would just want you to know it's their 50th year anniversary, the most magical celebration in the world, right? And they're like, oh, yeah. They're like, oh my God. Okay. So,
He's back.
so it was just so like, so incredible, right? And, okay, I'm almost there. Abe took 21 pictures of us in front of the castle. I'm like, I had to count them because I'm like, seriously?
It is one of those funny things, like we've talked about fear of success before, right? And how that gets in our mind. We're afraid of being happy, right? I mean, I don't want to do that because people are going to think I'm weird if I act in that way.
Okay,
Who gives
you're,
a shit?
you
I mean,
ready?
at the end of the day, when you really think about it, I will never see any of these human beings again, except for children.
Mhm.
Right. Oh, wait, oh,
Do you even know how to work that thing?
wait,
I don't know. She thought that she could do this while she was in the plane.
there
There's
she
the
is.
treasure
There's
chest.
Tinkerbell, right?
Wow.
Okay,
Lounging on a treasure chest.
there you go. There's Tinkerbell. Okay. And then
Eli, I want to know if she was hot.
it was very warm there. Yeah.
No, that's
I
not
know.
what he meant.
Okay. Listen to this. Like totally like listen to the kids. Hi Elena. Like they think they're all Selena Babylon. Hi Mulan. Right? Like, and then there's Pocahontas. And then all these animals. Like I was right in front. Timon and Pumbaa, right? They just came right up. And
Eli can't see anything. Baloo.
Jungle Book, my favorite.
Jasmine, there's the genie.
That's not Robin Williams, I promise.
I promise. See now you're ruining it.
Bringing everybody
Did you
back.
guys see?
You know, right before Robin Williams finished suicide,
Jealous.
with Brian was like Robin Williams. Like every time Brian, something with like Brian, every time he did something, he would turn into Robin Williams, and then in the end, he killed himself.
Oh,
Right before Robin Williams
That's
actually killed
not-
himself.
Okay, so then there's us
That's
in front of
weird.
the what's it called?
Wow.
There's us in front of the
Cinderella's castle.
castle, right? And but it's like, you know, like the kids, right? It's all about the kids and like watching them, and they're so young and they think all of this is like 100,000,000% real, right? And they're like, oh my God, there's princess, right? And so I'm like, why not? Like you said, like fully embrace it. I'm like, you guys, it's Tinkerbell, right? Do you know what's happening right now? And they're like, whoa. But I mean, it is also amazing what like Walt Disney's vision and idea of all of this. Like he died before Walt Disney World was even created, like finished. But he bought so much land so that
Mhm.
it wouldn't be developed and it was like a place to go. And I don't know, it's just it's happiness, right? And we were saying earlier today, like the thing is I feel, and Sean talked about it too in his talk, that we don't celebrate the successes, right? So like we don't have the happiness connected to the success because we're like, well, we did that. Now it's time I sold one house, time to move on, right? Like here's a picture, yay, let's go. No, we need to do the next one, right? And it's like, wait a minute, like look what you just did, or look where that lead came from. Like Thomas, you got a golden letter call. What was it, like 6 a.m. today, 6:30? And so, and then like moving
Nice.
forward, yeah.
Someone call him at 6.
And
Let's
he-
see if this real estate agent
Right.
knows what he's doing.
He's like,
6:30.
hello.
Hey, you're working hard over there.
right,
Got you later.
right. So, but the thing is like tracing it back to like seeing like where that came from. It's like, oh my gosh, that was because I mailed out a letter, and then, you know, like after all these things happen, it's like, wow, that was amazing.
Mhm.
Right. And I took that initiative, I did that thing and like celebrating it. And I think too many times we just jump onto the next thing. And, I guess I'm one of those, gigantic optimists, and it says, he said the top 10% of optimists outsell by 89%. So when you are an optimist, I feel like most things that I do, I'm like, not to my own harm, but I'm very successful at because I do it with that optimism, right?
Mhm.
And like people will be like, oh, well, what?" And I'm like, oh, well, I'm not going to worry about that. I'm just going to go do it anyway, or beat that, or,
Mhm.
because like in the end, it's like you have you, right? And if you're with you, right? And you have a good mindset, right? I don't know how to say it better than that.
I'm with you.
Are
We're with
you? Who's with you? I am. Okay.
Jesus.
And, then you're able to get past those things, right? And he said, when companies are able to raise the level of optimism, it's the greatest level of sales, or the greatest level of sales is when optimism is high. And that the human brain is more positive when you're wait a minute, what am I saying? This is what it says. The human brain is more positive than your genes and environment. I don't know what that means.
Well, one of the things
You
we
could
talk about
translate.
is that in general, we've often made the argument, is it your genes or is it the
Sure.
environment you grow up in that determines
Yeah.
whether you're an optimist or a pessimist or a lot of things. And the reality when it comes to optimism is that even though you may be genetically predisposed, or your environment might indicate that based on other people in similar environments that you would have a pessimistic attitude, that by undertaking several gratitude-based strategies,
Mhm.
you can change your actual level of optimism, your general optimism. And so that you can rise above whatever those things are, because your human nature is not to be pessimistic.
Right.
Pessimism is a trait that humans learned to anticipate danger. We don't live in a very dangerous world in the United States.
Right.
Physically,
No, we don't live in
mentally we do.
we don't live in a dangerous world in the United States.
Mentally,
It's
there's a
not,
debate there.
it's not dangerous. There are
Depends on
dangers.
how you feel.
That's your
about it.
mindset there, Blake.
I'm just saying, I mean, it's a dangerous way to get on that social media. There's a lot of dangerous stuff on there.
We don't live in a dangerous world. The only
Physically,
danger to you
totally.
is Blake.
Yeah.
He's the danger. But the
People
point is,
joking.
in general, we don't live in a dangerous world. We're not, you and I, we don't wake up in the morning and have to worry about a lion
Yeah.
popping into our cave.
Yeah, that would be physically
Um,
dangerous.
We don't generally worry in the United States about our next meal. We don't generally worry about having a roof over our head. Those aren't things
Right.
that we're afraid of on a day-to-day basis. Honestly, I mean, while the media might make it sound like it, we really don't have a real reason to fear the guy across the street
Mhm.
in the United States. Or even in the next two countries. I mean, think about that across the board in the history of humans. We don't have a lot to fear. And yet that part of our brain wants to be working.
Right.
It still wants to work. So it's finding all kinds of things because it can't find the real things it's supposed to be afraid of.
Mhm.
No snakes here. All right, well, trash can. That thing, something could come out of there. I mean, it's busy trying to figure stuff out to warn you of. But the point is, if you can undertake some very specific gratitude strategies, you can navigate out of that space of pessimism and into a place where you're more optimistic. Then, in places of optimism, the studies show that Optimistic people produce better outcomes. For sales, they live longer. They have more relationships, which of course, by having more relationships generally means they're happier people. And that what tends to build is it tends to build a cycle of positivity that multiplies itself and kind of inoculates itself against other problems. And as a result, you can do that. But he talked about some very specific strategies on what you can do to help engineer that. And one of those things is just so simple as greeting people and smiling. The impact that that can have on everybody around is huge. And there are some people in this office who like to hang out in their doors, and if their doors closed, and I will disrupt them at every opportunity, I promise you. And I'm pretty good at it, but I will not have that sad sourpuss face going on in there. Will not happen. Not on my watch.
Not on my watch, people. Well, and tying to that, so he said happiness is not an individual sport. And so when you think of that, like at Disney World, at Ritz-Carlton, it can't be just, I'm the only happy one here, right? It's in a group, right? And then he related it to this, either two studies that he talked about. One was a hill. And he said, when you are standing looking at a hill, it looks like, let's say it's a really tall hill, right? It looks very daunting. And then when you start walking, you're like, oh, it's not actually that bad, right? It's just the vision, right? And then he said, when you have someone else standing with you and both of you look at the hill and it's like, well, you know what, Jason, I don't think that hill's that bad, right? Like, I think we can do this, right? The optimism of you as a team working together, and it grows, right? And if you have more people with you, if more people are positive about it and looking at it, it's like, oh yeah, we can do this, right?
The actual study indicates that the human brain perceives that hill as literally 30% less steep when you're standing with someone who you understand to be going the journey with you. The hill, your mind perceives it as less steep. It's not that it suddenly gets less steep, but your brain looks at it and says, nope, it's not as tall as I think it is.
Yeah.
Your mind is inundated, I think he said, with something on the order of 15 million pieces of information per minute. But your mind can only process 4 million pieces of information in that amount of time. So there's 11 million pieces of information that your mind doesn't pick up on. And that's why training for gratitude is so important, because you start, what are the 4 million pieces I'm going to look for? Am I going to look for the scary monster in that white garbage can, or am I going to look at that smiling face? I get a choice, right? And if I start training my mind to look for the good things, I'm going to be a lot happier. And that helps me look for more good things, which then creates that snowball effect. And that thing about the 30% less steep, I mean, that's amazing. And I've seen similar studies where people who are suffering from depression, if they ask them to draw a picture of themselves, they always draw themselves heavier and sadder than, you know what I mean? Like their facial expression and their weight, they draw themselves heavier than they actually are in real life. There's a cognitive dissonance. Your brain actually changes the way you see yourself to fit an image. And the goal is then to use exercise and things like that to control the way you're seeing the world, because you're not how you see yourself.
When he talked too about scanning, that was one of the things with gratitude. So he says, if I was to ask you every day, what are you grateful for? Right? You don't even have to think about it. You're like, God, my family,
Got
my
cool
health.
kids, nice house,
Right?
nice
That's it.
carpet,
I love
Right.
Mike and I.
socks.
Right. So then you say, okay, that's great. Now, tomorrow, I want you to tell me 3 things that are not what you told me today. And so then you kind of keep going, right? And at the end of, I think he said 21 days, you end up having 63 things that you're grateful for. And what happens is at about day 8, you stop coming up with these things. And so now you have to scan.
Mhm.
And so throughout your day, you're scanning like, what
Oh,
am I
yeah.
grateful for? Right. And you're starting to think like that. And then at the end of these 21 days, it just changes. I mean, and maybe you can put it more articulate than I can, but because I can't remember what he explained about the end result.
It
The end of-
forces you to,
Yeah, you are then literally spending your day looking.
Right.
You're looking for things to be grateful for,
Mhm.
to fill,
Yeah.
essentially to fill out this questionnaire. You've trained yourself to search out the good. Which is, and that's the kind of place, and after that amount of time, that's where you start to see that change from, a low-level pessimist to a low-level optimist, where instead of looking for the problems in your life, you're identifying the things that are around you that are already amazing. I mean, we live in an amazing world. We live in an amazing world at an amazing time. And one of the examples I often use is I sold cell phones for a long time, and people come in and they say, "God, your cell phone is so expensive. It's ridiculous. It's so much more than it was a year ago." I said, dude, if you go right now and you literally go into Google and you type in 1991 Radio Shack full page ad, there is an article that will show you a full page ad from a Radio Shack in 1991. And if you look at that page, everything on that full page ad is now jammed into your cell phone. Everything
Right.
on the page is in your cell phone, and your cell phone is cheaper than that price. And that price was the price they were charging in 1991. So you're full of garbage. When you say that your phone is more expensive, it's not. It just patently isn't more expensive. But as amazing as this is, if you handed this to George Washington, who somehow traveled in time to be here with us right now, and you handed this to him and you said, "Man, this is the coolest thing ever," he'd look at that and go, "Huh, ain't that something?" You know what I'm really curious about, man? How do you get the corn that close together? Because you think about the amazing amount of innovation in our world right now. If you go to a farm field and think about how close those rows are together, and think about in his time, that would have been a guy with a seed, putting it in the ground, riding behind a horse, putting seed in there. I mean, how are the rows so straight? Those are the things that you could keep handing him this phone and saying, "What an amazing thing." And he'd be like, "No, show me the corn."
I like the corn.
Because there are so many things in our world, it's overwhelming. I'm willing to bet at least, well, I know for a fact, somebody in this room, their grandparents lived at a time when there were not planes. This weren't planes. I'm not talking about like on September 11th when they shut them down for a day.
Right.
They weren't even a thing to be thinking about. What's a plane? If I said, "Hey, grandma, remember your kid, there were planes?" No. What's a plane?
Mhm.
What is a plane? I don't even know what you're speaking of. You're literally, I might as well be describing Gervelins because they're not a thing.
You just make up that word.
Yeah, I did,
I
but
did.
not really, because they're coming and you'll really like them. I promise. They're amazing.
Oh, gosh.
But so we live in this amazing world, and yet we're weighed down by the fact that we're afraid if we make a phone call to a friend that they might not want to give us their email address.
Yeah, I hate that.
I mean, think about when you think about the word, I mean, bring it all back down to the main thing. Wonder if Joe will give me that. He's going to think I'm pestering him. That's where we're at.
Yeah.
That's where we're at because that's how our minds work. And it's a trick that your mind is playing on you because there's no danger. So the only danger that you have is that you're going to run into some guy like this, right? That's the
Physically, there's
only
less
real
danger.
danger.
We'll get into that another time. I'll let it just be the way.
But that's what your mind wants to do. It wants to identify a danger. See, the problem with your mind, and I'll accept that there is a lot of danger there. Your mind doesn't see that as danger.
Yeah.
In fact, it sees that as fun. And you're right. That's where the real danger is. So your mind is so jacked up that you're even looking at the wrong things as danger.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Okay, so I have another one for you.
Ooh, another one. I like another one.
So, that about the retain an imprint if you scan something too long.
Oh, yeah, that was terrible. Go.
What does that mean?
So,
It's terrible, true.
yep, so
Have you
if
played
you,
Tetris?
yes, have any of you played Tetris?
Tetris.
Right? So they did a study where they had people playing Tetris for a period of time and
5 days.
5 days.
5
And
days of
they
Tetris.
said somebody
For how long
was
each day?
like,
That was a day
yeah,
playing Tetris.
The
a
whole
day,
day.
a day of it. So what's happening is you're scanning for where do these shapes go in, right? Like, where do I put these shapes? And you're scanning for so long that your brain imprints that. And so they had people who had gone to the grocery store and didn't like realize it, but they were reorganizing the cereal and the loaves of bread so that everything was the same imprint as Tetris. Right. And so it's what you put in, you need to be careful with what you put in because you can get the wrong kind of imprint. Right. And so the important thing is like when you're scanning for those gratitude things is it's neuroplasticity. That's what it is. I found it. So you activate it. And so then when you write those 3 new things a day for 45 seconds, it's gonna change the way that you think about things. And he said that like NASA, he worked with them and they did 3 new things they were grateful for while brushing their teeth. So it's that habit stacking, right? Like I'm brushing my teeth, I'm going to think of 3 things. And so then it's just, you're brushing your teeth and you're just automatically, you're thinking of those things. And they said too, that like, to keep that pattern going. And then like a lot of times people would think about how they view their spouse and they'd be viewing it with a different lens because of the gratitude that they had been doing and that it had really changed their outlook. And then the other cool one that I found was front loading optimism with gratitude. So he said, take a brisk walk. If you can take a brisk walk with someone else, that's even better. 4 to 5 times a week for 6 months. And the walk is 15 minutes long, right? They said that increase in the way they felt was more effective than the strongest antidepressant medications that are on the market, right? So if they were feeling this deep, dark depression, 6 months later, they were better than if they were taking the strongest antidepressant medication, which was like, holy crap, right? Exercise and talking with somebody.
He was very clear that this is not a substitute for medicine for people who
Correct.
have those sorts of issues, but it is a insight into how your mind works and how exercise and your mind combine together. One of the things that he's talking about is he's talking about the Tetrises, and he asked, I mean, if you've had that long gaming session, have you had dreams about the game you're playing? And of course, if you're a gamer, you have, and that right there tells you just an introduction to how that piece works. And if you're constantly using a set of lenses to see the world, you're going to see the world that way. And it's going to change how you look at the world. Only changes unless you change it. I mean, you have to do something to change those lenses. And so, I mean, if you grow up in a house where, you're surrounded by people who are challenged or have real hardships or difficulty dealing with life, you're going to come out of the chute like that, but you don't have to stay like that. You can change that place that you're from. And the way that you see things by engaging in practices that do that.
Yeah, one of the things, just talking more about the scanning. So he said, if you can get into the habit of doing a 2-minute daily positive text or email to one person. So he said, if you can praise or thank them for something meaningful, what'll happen at day 8 is you'll run out of people, right? Because at day 8, you're like, my mom, my dad, my brother, my sister,
I did the easy ones.
my daughters, right? You get to day 8 and you're like, oh, right? And so then he said, then you start scanning the hidden ecosystem, right? And when you do that, that's going to impact them and their life. And he said, you know, they might ask like, are you intoxicated? Right? Like, are you okay? Why are you doing this? And, but then the same kind of thing is every day you're thinking, ooh, who can I text or email today to tell them that I love them or to tell them that they're amazing, right? And I mean, 365 days, right? Like imagine that. That's pretty awesome. And it can always be like, oh, I met somebody at good example. I met Sergio. He was my Uber driver
Sergio.
and he's from Brazil. And
Sergio.
yes, we started talking and he told me how he has this business and he transportation business, not just Uber or Lyft. He has a 15-passenger van and we talked all about it. Well, then the next day I needed to get from point A to B to C to D, and I didn't have a place to put the luggage. So he's like, well, here's what I'll do. I'll come pick you up. I'll hold your luggage for the entire day. I'll take you to Disney World, and then I'll pick you out at Epcot, and I'll take you to the airport. And I'll tell you the times and blah, blah, blah. And it's this much money. And I was like, done. Right.
Nice.
And so then I'm like, oh my God, I got to share this guy's information with everybody. The next time we go, like, Jason, could you imagine if we would have had a 15-passenger van for all of the places we went in Orlando? It probably would have been nice, he says. We all would have gotten there on time, right? And Olivia would have not had, to text 3 million people. But the thing is it's just thinking about those kind of things. And then you're going out of your way. Like every Uber driver, I'd be like, so, where are you originally from? Because they have an accent, right? And then they start telling us, and then, but just thinking about all those different people that you could reach out to, and then the positive effects that that's going to have on them and on you. Yeah. Nice.
Hey, Joe, have a good day.
Have a great
That's what
day.
I said.
What else you got, Jason? That's all my notes on
No, I was
the
looking.
Firefly one.
Yeah, talk about that.
Okay, so
You got good notes.
So the two studies, the one was the Hill, the second one was the Firefly. So there was a man, a scientist, who went out to this island, and they said, don't forget, you need to leave there before it gets dark, like, because otherwise you're not gonna be able to find your campsite and blah, blah, blah. So he's like, oh, yeah, okay. And then he was super fascinated by the bugs, as one would be, right? And he loses track of time and it gets dark and he's like, oh my God, I gotta go. Gets in his boat and he is going down the river, and all of a sudden he sees like this like strike of lightning. And he's like, oh my God, that tree was just struck by lightning, right? And he goes down further down and it happens again. And he's like, what is going on? Like, how is this happening? And he did a lot of studies and came back and told all these people about what's happening, and they all thought it was insane. And turns out that in 2 places in the world, and I feel like he said like they were opposite each other, the firefly has figured out how to all of them blink at the same time. So they all go on, they all go off. And the reason they do that is because the way he told the story was kind of funny, but he's like, so it's for, what was the word he used? I can't remember. It wasn't procreation, was it? I don't know. Was it? So for procreation, right? They have a 3% chance if they're just flashing all over the place, right? If they all go at once, their chances went up to 87%.
Wow, you didn't know this about me.
He was like, yeah, so that was a good night, right? I was like, oh my God. So the point is that these fireflies adapted to their surrounding so that they could figure out how to make other fireflies, right? And that we all in our minds think, oh no, well, it has to, that fireflies are just random, right? It has to be that. So they legit thought this guy was completely insane. And here he's just seeing fireflies, right? And I don't remember where it was, like somewhere in South America or something.
Huh.
So,
Wow.
and he said it's not survival of the fittest, it is survival of the best fit. Right?
That was good.
That is a clever
That's an
thought. I
interesting
am really trying to go back. I'm way back in my feed right now. Because I think it was in 2017. Takes a long time to get back there in Facebook to 2017. But in 2017, for about 45 days straight, I thanked someone on Facebook in a lengthy post and tagged them in it for something or some way that they impacted me. And I went through almost every person, whether I sent them, you know what I mean? And it's hard. It was really hard to come up with that, you know, that whole thing about, you know, after 8 days, try.
I
40.
did something during COVID for being grateful, and I think it was a month and a gratitude message. And it was interesting because, you know, like every day I'm like, what am I grateful for today? What can I find? What can I share with people? Because yeah, at first it's easy and then you're like, whoa.
Yeah, it's really hard. It was 2017. Man, that was a long time.
The other thing you talked about was when you think of, when you go into the library or the bookstore, right? And you see all of the self-help books. He said, happiness is not self-help, right? And that a lot of times that's what people want to find happiness. So they're like, well, I'm going to go read some self-help books so that I can help myself and I can be happy. And his main point with that is that that's not how it works. And like Jason said, you have to be, the happiness comes before the success. And it's seeing it in those little things. And it's all about being grateful. Like we have our grateful messages at our meetings and we're like, so, you know, say write 3 things that you're grateful for. So I was going to tell John, I'm going to challenge him to say, write 3 things that you have never written down before that you're grateful for, right?
Mhm.
To help think outside the box on it.
So I think in the long run, the point that all of this comes down to is it would be useful to read his book. It would be useful to watch his podcast. But what would be more useful is for you to take those actions, to do the things, because they're, and understand that they're not easy. But they do have an impact. And there is real science that backs it up. It's not just some guy guru out asking for $600 of your money to attend a camp and tell you, well, it's gotta be happy, man.
Don't worry, be happy.
That there's real science behind it. So, right. So, I mean, that's just one, I mean, think about, we just talked, that's one piece of it. Now, we didn't even really talk about how many, I mean, in general, there's a keynote speech, which kind of kicks it off and Gary Keller works through the market and what he expects the market to be like for the next year. On each day, there are individual breakout sessions that are tailored towards different interests. Maybe you're part of a large team, or maybe you're a solo agent, or you're a nerd like me and you're going to go look at the technology of the business. There's breakouts for all kinds of different groups. Maybe what's interesting to you is that they have a whole area filled with vendors who support real estate agents in different ways and do different tasks. And you can go there and hang out there for a while. Maybe you go there because you want to go to kwprep.com.
Yeah.
What's at kwprep.com before you get to your picture with Molly?
It wasn't prep, it was K.
You're right, KW Perks.
Perks.
kwperks.com.
Oh, I was confused there for a second.
Yeah, tell them about that.
What's that KW Perks? I don't remember.
It's
Benefits.
perks.
Perks.
KW Perks.
kwperks.com. Make your parents happy. Go to kwperks.com. So, I mean, there's so many things that are being discussed there.
Affordable quality health solutions for Keller Williams agent community. Range of plans to meet your financial and family needs. Major medical plans that include full dental, vision. Go to your doctor or PPO. Like, incredible that a 1099 person can get insurance. Like that's a huge thing. So yeah, I think all of you, including it, Thomas and Blake, you should go check that out. You can get an estimate. And yeah, it's incredible. The cool thing was they said that in 12 months, Keller Williams has launched 18 businesses. So this would be one of them. Another one would be K-Score, the education. You know, there's so many different things that we offer to make the lives of agents better, right? And they're going to keep coming out. Like another one is, what is that? The sports and entertainment division, luxury division, relocation, land, you know, all these different things. So really you can, it's to help you, but also then if you have a niche that you want to get into, you can go down that road as well.
So I found a thank you I posted, and I think this is a funny one because it's kind of small, but I think we've all been there. When I was a teen, like so many others, I had a lot to learn. Unfortunately, a lot of those lessons fell on deaf ears. As I look back on those years with an eye to lessons I missed, I carried a false bravado and acted in ways that did not align with what I now know not to be my true self. Today, I'd like to thank someone in those times who never accepted my BS. I didn't learn the lesson then, but I'm working on it now. Thank you, Nicole Davis. Your steadfastness in your convictions and lack of tolerance for my chicanery is finally paying dividends. And we didn't get along in high school. I mean, this is a person I did not get along with in high school because I was a bit of an idiot. Not that you could imagine that now, knowing me. And I act like that a little bit of more fun than maybe other folks in different ways. But, you know, she was at school to learn. And that was, she understood that. I didn't understand that. And she would call me out on that kind of stuff and acting stupid and settle
Right.
down and that kind of stuff. So we didn't get along that well. But in retrospect, she was trying to teach me something.
Yeah.
And I wasn't ready to hear her lesson, but that doesn't mean it wasn't a valuable lesson just the same. And, you know, that's the kind of thing that once you start going past those 8, you start really thinking about the
Yep.
people who are on this list. I mean, why am I even friends with this person and we didn't get along that well, right?
Mhm.
And it turns out that when I really think about it, you know, she never really was, I mean, it wasn't like against me,
Mhm.
but you know, there's an opportunity to look back and look at those things and examine yourself and be self-introspective. And gratitude leads you down a path of understanding that. And I think it is an absolute bedrock. If you pick up my favorite author, Jay Shetty, you will very quickly you'll not be able to go very far before gratitude is mentioned in anything that he has ever written or said. And if you can adopt that, I promise you, it is a game changer. And, you know, to go to a conference where that's a pinpoint is so crazy.
Can you tell them what you said, the previous one, where how you felt when you listened to?
Oh, yeah, to be fair, I mean, I did mention this to the other folks and you know, I was actually a little depressed after listening to him, honestly, because I just pulled this thing up from you. I've done this stuff. I've done that work. And for some reason I stopped. And you know, as I'm listening to this guy say, you know, this is the key to success, these are these things. And I look back and I go, you know what? I was happier then. I felt more successful then, and more successful, honestly, in the things that mattered to me most then. And I stopped doing them. Why in the world would I stop doing the things that were working? And it kind of made me a little sad and depressed after having listened to him, you know, because honestly, he's talking about gratitude. And of course, that's not the right way to look at it. I mean, you can hang out in that place for a little while and that's not going to get you anywhere, but you go, all right, well, what am I going to do to change that?
Yeah.
How am I going to make that a thing? And it's funny because now, even in the short time since I said that at the last class, I recognize I've incorporated so many of those things into what I do that I don't think of them the same way. I just don't do the big rocks anymore. I do a lot of little small pieces, but the big ones I don't do. I mean, it's really rare that if you schedule an appointment with me that you don't get a thank you letter from me. I mean, I don't know, in 20 years ago, me would said, why am I sending you a thank you? That's upside down. I should have a thank you in my email box from you. You came to me, I fixed your problem. That's not how this works though, right? And when you start doing that stuff, I think even like I said, just in that short time, I've forgotten that. That's pretty much a standard behavior for me now, is just to send those sorts of things out to recognize, the opportunity to be of assistance to somebody, and thanking them for that chance. So, don't live in you can visit those places, but don't stay. You can visit, but don't stay. And the way out of it is just remembering that to be thankful, because you do have so many opportunities in front of you, to participate, to do something that is amazing and to help people in the most amazing ways. I mean, you are a human being is trusting you with a significant chunk of the money they have saved over many years. And I mean, if you thought about that, if they got paid $25 an hour, you know what I mean? Way over that $15 minimum wage, and they're putting $20,000 down. How many hours
Right.
of their life is that? Think about the terrible shit that happens to you in your work over that many hours of your life, and they're entrusting your silly ass with that money.
Mhm.
That's a big deal. And to be able to be part of that for another human being is amazing.
It was $15 an hour.
If it was $15 an hour, it'd be 1,300 hours. And that's before taxes. But that savings wasn't before taxes. So 1,300 hours.
That's 33 40-hour work weeks.
I mean, a year
That's-
of work,
I'm never spending money. I'm never spending that.
right? I mean, think about that. And they're entrusting you with it.
Yeah.
What a wonderful thing to be able to be of that kind of assistance to somebody for that amount of
Right.
money. I mean, that's a big deal to have earned that trust. It's almost transactional
Mhm.
in your mind. But when you start to think of it on the relation level, what have they gone through to get this? And how are you a part of helping that process? Hopefully that leaves you with a sense of gratitude for what they're really trusting you with. It's not just that they're paying you, but they're trusting you with something far more than what you're going to take.
Right.
They're trusting you with what will likely be the bedrock of their life for, on average, 13 years.
Right.
That's a pretty cool deal. That's a pretty cool place to be. And it's why you need to approach it and not be worried about it. There are going to be people who aren't going to react well, and that's okay.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
There's a 4-letter word for that.
What's that?
NEXT.
Fair enough. It's the right word, right? Because you can't help everybody. You can't help everybody anyway.
Mhm.
If everybody in your database called you today and said, I'm ready to buy a home tomorrow, you'd be effed. Literally, you would be effed. You couldn't help them all.
They would be apt. I would take 5 and be good to go.
You
There-
can help them all by referring them to.
That's what you would do, but you know what I mean? In the
No,
end,
I get what you're saying. You can't help it. but
you can't. So move on to the ones who need it now.
Mhm.
There's a really good, at the inspirational, did you go to inspirational breakfast? No? Okay, so
No.
Sajag is he's one of them in the MAPS coaching, and it was an amazing story. So Mo Anderson, our chairperson or past chairperson of the board, she's in charge of all of this, and she's also in charge of Red Day in May. And but basically, what happened was there was one of his friends from high school was on Facebook and went over to was on a mission trip and was helping this organization get a house, like build a house, right? And so they said, well, how much do you need? Like, how much money do you need? How much, like resources, all this stuff. And she goes, well, I'm going to reach out to one of my friends, Sajag, and I'm going to ask him if he can help us. And he went on the MAPS coaching platform and raised, I want to say like $50,000 in a couple hours. And they sent that to them, and they were able to to get it completed, except they didn't have any beds. And these kids had never in their life slept on a bed. And so they got bunk beds, and then they started to show pictures of it. And because what happened was they did a, GoFundMe or something. And so then it started to catch momentum, and Sajak said, Mo Anderson said, well, a little birdie told me that you were going to be leaving real estate in December of 2021. And he goes, yeah, so I was going to leave. And I was challenged by my coach, Monica Reynolds. She said to me, so how many people can you help? Right. And he said, well, I can do this, and I can do that. And she goes, okay, how can you think bigger about that? And so it got to the point where he's like, I can't help as many people as I want to if I physically go out to help them. So she said, well, so I want you to think bigger. And so then he put together a GoFundMe again. And then he started an organization, right? And so now he'll be able, his goal was to help. He has 101 doors, so he owns 101 properties. His goal is to own 1,000. And by owning those 1,000, he'll be able to help 100,000 children. And so, the point is he's never going to be able to help 100,000 people if he goes out in person to do things, right? And yes, that feels good, and you're in that. However, guess what? You have a bigger role, and you have a bigger gift that you can give. And so she came, then of course they had never met in person. Well, I guess it wasn't a high school friend. It was, Mo kept messing up the story. But anyway, she said, well, have you ever met? And he's like, no. So then they brought her out and they got to meet.
Did he know that she was like, oh.
No, she always surprises people. And then they, well, let me show you. I got a picture with him. And it was so touching because, he was up there. He had a really rough childhood. His parents were both, immigrants to this country. And he's like, we were so poor. And what they wanted to do was just provide education for us. And so they were able to do that. He said it was a really rough time, and they were really happy when okay, so they're there when they were able to provide that. Okay, there we are. They were happy to be able to provide that for people. And it's that underestimation, how they say you'll overestimate what you can do in a year, and you'll underestimate what you can do in 5. And that's the same thing with this, is you'll underestimate what your reach and how many people you can help. And being humble and asking for help, like saying, this is what I want to do. And do you know, like how Jason's like, well, do you know somebody who would like to know, that knows a lot about medicinal marijuana? Well, yes, of course I would like to know that person, right? Like in that example, right? So that you're able to help. And it's also a gift of like connecting people, and I feel like that's something that we have such a big opportunity to do, because of how many people we see and how many people we know. And, even if it's just somebody who, like Amanda Mendoza, she's an agent here, her husband does gutters. He does an amazing job, right? I'm like, let's help them out, right? Like I needed gutters, so they came over and they were half as much as anybody else, right? Got it done in a day or less than a day. And so it's things like that, like thinking of what our reach is and how we can help people. Like Sergio, I was like, hey, so when we come back to Orlando, you'll be our dude, right? To bring us all the places in your 15 passenger van. But yeah.
The crazy thing too is, even if he hadn't cost less, you're
Right.
still winning. Here's a slide from one of Carmen's previous presentations. Firing your doctors by switching to CBD. But, you know, I mean, you think about your connections and how you connect people. I enjoy that thing. That's something that makes me happy to do.
Mhm.
But in the end, there is so much that we took from that. And I don't think either of us have, I mean, we talked a little bit about the funnel stuff, the mechanics. We spent a lot more time on mechanics than we've discussed
Yeah.
today.
Yeah.
But that's all gonna come. We're all gonna
Yeah.
talk about mechanics. You're not gonna get tired of hearing, I mean, you get tired of hearing about mechanics or those kinds of things. But it was an experience that was very unique. And I would highly recommend that you figure out a way to plan a vacation around going there.
Mhm.
And that's the right way to do it if you're gonna do it in a business sense, because then your vacation is discountable,
Yep.
you know, because you're at a work conference. And then, I mean, look, these things aren't cheap, but how do you spend money in a way that makes sense for you? If you go 2 days early and you go 2 days later and it's a 4-day conference, that's 8 days, you got a nice time. And you save some money on that trip that you wanted to take anyway. Why not take them in conjunction if it's somewhere that you can go and pick up stuff in the meantime? You win. I mean, you really do. It's an investment in yourself. And even if you don't come away with a lead, one of the things that so many people did there, and she ended up getting a post. There was a post about her in Facebook. There was a girl who got 500 referral agents in her network while she was there. And if you go into command, there's a thing for referrals, right? But I mean, I don't know anybody in Florida right now. I personally don't know an agent in Florida except for the fishing girl.
Oh my God, it was the fishing girl?
It
She
was the
sat in
fishing
front
girl.
of us, remember?
Yes. We saw her in the thing. She was wearing a
All the
stupid
time.
fishing hat
I
and she had
remember
a
that, yeah.
really stupid short fishing pole and a fishing vest. She wore it every day and wandered around like that, like an idiot.
That was hilarious. I was there. It was
And
funny.
it was hilarious and funny and stupid.
You did say she was an idiot and she was literally sitting in front of us.
She was literally sitting in front of us. And she is the only person I know in Florida. And I'll be honest with you, if somebody says I'm moving to Florida, I will send them to her first. Because she's willing to do that. She
Right,
will help them find a house.
Wow.
for
But I
sure.
mean, there's so many ways to make out from that investment, you know, to have that turn in your favor. And that's what it is. It's an investment in yourself.
When we talked about how, you know, it's getting to know people on the leadership team, it's getting to know other agents, like all the people that went, I know them all at a deeper level than I did when we did, you know, beforehand. And, you know, like you said, that you're being paid to go. And right. And the thing is that Olivia pointed it out. She's like, thank you so much for taking time away from your family and from your business to do this, right? Because agents, like I had to write an offer, freaking.
Kelly wrote 2 offers.
Yeah. And she did a listing, like she did the paperwork for a listing, and you just make it work, right? And the thing is that it is taking a break. And like Jason said, if you go, like next year, I think it's in Anaheim, you take a day or 2 beforehand, a day or 2 afterwards, then you're not rushed. And like my daughter, it's her birthday, the 19th of February. So it's almost always that weekend or close to it. So before, you know, we couldn't do it during COVID, but she's gone with on the vacations. And next year, she goes, well, next year I won't even need grandma to go. I'll just go by myself. I mean, it'll be me and a friend. And I was like, oh God, right? Like, my gosh. But, you know, it's like you can wrap family into it, you know. So it's and it's such a I don't even know the word to describe it. Like, I mean, there's a lot of people there, and you were a little overwhelmed with the people, I think, the first day.
I'm not a big fan of folks. Oh, I was so tired.
Right,
I
day
was
one.
So tired because of that stupid
Did you
trip.
tell me? You were like, I wish I had like, I don't remember what you said.
I just want to knock people out. Yeah, I
Right.
do.
I want spikes on my arms. I was like, wow.
Well, I mean, it's like being at the Mall of America times
Yeah.
10, you know what I mean, on a busy day,
On
because
Black Friday, right?
there's people just walking through and then they just stop.
It's the worst.
And you're like, I'm trying to get around you, Bubba, look, people are having a great time. They're taking pictures of their buddy. I see you across all, it's like high school. They're all excited, taking snaps of each other and shit. And I just want to get to the next room. Just want to get there. I was so worn out that first day. God, it was terrible. And that's because I didn't take an extra day. You know what I mean? I should have taken, we were planning to get there a lot earlier, but they canceled our flight. That we were supposed to get there at like 2 p.m.
Right,
And that would have been perfect for me because then I could have gone outside and sat outside in the grass and
right.
had sun and been excited and then gone to the thing the next day like no big deal. But instead, we got into our place, our bed, our Airbnb at 1 a.m. and didn't go to sleep until like 1:45. And then you're there at 7:30 in the morning.
Right.
I mean, I'm not ready to go like that anymore.
Yeah.
I used to go, but I'm not that way anymore.
You gotta be, man. You gotta be.
But then if you have an extra day too, if anything gets screwed up with weather, or whatever, you've got a
Yep.
buffer, because otherwise it's like, oh, I'm gonna miss this and I paid this and I did this. And it's like,
Mhm.
it's super frustrating. So, yeah. Hey, guys, do you guys have any comments, questions on anything?
No, this is good. I guess I have a question regarding my listing.
Sure.
So how does the key situation work with if we're pre-signing at closing? Like how do they
With the
transfer
key-
the keys?
Yes, so one thing you'll probably want to do is have the seller, the buyer's agent get the keys when they do the final walkthrough and hang on to them, and then give them to the buyer at closing.
Okay. Give it to the buyer's agent.
Yep, you'll have that, like, just tell them
Walkthrough.
to get it at the final walkthrough, get the keys from the
Keep the key
lockbox.
from the lockbox. So
Yep.
put them both in the lockbox.
Yep, and then just leave garage door openers on the counter or in the drawer in the kitchen or something.
Okay, sounds
And
good.
then all you have to organize is getting your lockbox that's empty and getting your sign.
Okay,
Signs everywhere, signs.
Yes, and I do that after we're closed, just in case, who knows, right? Like, I don't have to go reinstall a sign or something, so,
okay, so you do that like the day after closing or the day of?
Yeah. yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Yes, sir. Cool, people, cool.
Well, thank you, guys.
Yes, I'm just gonna look at the calendar super quick. We have team meeting next week, next Wednesday. And oh my God, it's already March next week, you
I
guys.
know.
What?
Signs everywhere, signs.
Signs. My goodness. Okay, so yes, we are going to have team meeting.
September, whatever it is in September, but
Everyone's gonna be irritated.
I'm happy.
Everything is awesome.
Oh, and actually everybody did respond.
And then next week, homework will be what Irene sent out as homework this week.
Time blocking.
Oh my God, okay. So, yeah. I love getting together with you guys, and I'm so glad that we got to share all this stuff with you. It's so exciting. And I have to show you my ears. Hang on,
Oh
my God. because I'm happy.
Jason, that one song is getting good. By Lauren. You don't have, no, you don't have to play it over that one.
I do.
Aw.
Oh my god.
Did you walk around with them?
I did all day yesterday. Wore them all day.
Ooh, I
And
see
one of the
like
cast
Trisha
members
Yearwood.
came up and he was like, "Ooh." And then notified, and Olivia and Abe were like, they just start laughing. And I'm like, oh yeah, that was funny. And I'm like, Nope, there was a cast member that was just sticking his finger in your ears. And I'm like, so, yeah. All right, guys.
I have a like,
Yes,
question.
yes.
It's not really, it's kind of off topic, but so I'm thinking like for March, I really like that, one idea like Scotty does about the lotto ticket and everything.
Yeah.
Like where do you, I'm just like, I was looking at through like Etsy and stuff, like what's the best source for that kind of like stuff or how to print it? Like, do you get a template and then like use our printer and do it cardstock here or like, and then, because then I was looking at a place called like Market something, but they're just so expensive and like, I don't know.
So you're talking about the card?
Like, yeah, obviously, yeah. I mean, the
I
template.
I would just do, I mean, I'm kind of cheap though, frugal. I would just do, like a note card.
Okay.
And then you guys do it,
How
don't
do you
you?
print it on a note card?
Well, the one that I'm thinking of is for St. Patrick's Day is giving out a scratch off ticket. And so I just get I don't know, however many I was gonna send out. I try and do like if they have St. Patrick's Day scratch offs. And then just put that in the note card and tell them,
Oh, like an actual, okay, yeah.
yeah, you can,
Write a note or something.
yeah, Dave Stark is pretty good at putting stuff through the printer and like the actual card.
Mhm.
And so he's done that and then basically then all he does is sign his name. So that's another option too.
Mhm.
Like he knows how to do them on those KW thank you cards.
Oh,
Their
wow.
note cards or whatever.
Mhm.
So if you want to do something like that, he can show you how to do that. And then that's basically just if it's black and white, you just do the black and white copy to put
Mhm.
through, which is like 7 cents.
Yeah.
And then you get a free pack of cards from the off. I think every new agent gets at least 1 pack of those cards because we have so many of them. So if you haven't had any yet,
Yeah.
there's black set and a white set. So
Where do you get them from? Up front?
yep. And then just reach out to Dave and ask him how to say, I'd like to know how to print on those KW note cards, right? I think that was it called. You get what I'm saying?
Mhm.
I'm gonna stack them side tray.
Yeah.
Fold them that way.
I print them on the wrong side and.
I know in our
upside
case,
down.
Tiny just orders a bunch of cards,
Yeah,
but we're big time.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. but like Canva. Canva's a super
Mhm.
popular place and I think the printing is pretty well priced. Another one is Vistaprint. I really like Vistaprint, but I don't know how,
Price computer.
yeah. All right, guys. It was good seeing y'all.
Yes, thanks again.
Yeah, absolutely.